The first time Arlen Foster met Quarn, the alien was holding a sealed container with both upper limbs trembling ever so slightly. They stood in the communal kitchen of the Interstellar Student Exchange Dormitory, a sterile, grayish building orbiting just above Earth's exosphere, technically outside national borders, and therefore a neutral ground for academic collaboration. Arlen, wearing a faded band tee and nursing a mug of questionable instant coffee, was watching his bagel spin unevenly in the microwave when Quarn shuffled in. Quarn was tall, vaguely mantis-shaped, but with soft, rubbery skin that pulsed gently in hues of blue and green depending on mood. In that moment, it was an anxious seafoam. The container in its limbs was labeled ethyl alcohol 40% human sample. "Hello," Quarn said, voice filtered through the translator slung around its neck like a digital lanyard. "Is this substance accurate?" Arlen squinted at the label. That's vodka, pretty standard." Quarn's eyes, large and compound but faintly expressive if you knew what to look for, widened. "And humans consume this?" it asked. "Not just consume," Arlen said, pulling his bagel out and nearly dropping it. "We've built entire weekends around it. You've never heard of a party?" "I was informed alcohol is a toxin," Quarn said, voice tight. "Oh, it is," Arlen said, chewing thoughtfully. "That's kind of the point." Quarn didn't move. "You willingly ingest poison?" Arlen chuckled. "Wait until you hear about Everclear." Quarn's skin flushed a deep blue. "What is Everclear?" "It's like vodka's criminal older brother," Arlen said, setting down his mug. 95% alcohol by volume. Illegal in a bunch of states. Makes rocket fuel look like lemonade. Quarn paused. "You cannot be serious." Arlen walked over and opened the cabinet above the sink. From behind a box of cereal and a half-used roll of duct tape, he retrieved a small, clear bottle. The label was cheap and peeling, but unmistakable. "I don't drink this stuff," he said, handing it over. "I keep it around for cleaning engine parts. But yeah, that's Everclear." Quarn took the bottle gingerly, scanned it, and immediately let out a distressed chirp. "This cannot be safe. My people would experience systemic failure within seconds." "Humans do too," Arlen said. "We just call it blacking out." Quarn looked between the bottle and Arlen, then carefully set it on the counter like it might bite. "Why would any species intentionally induce neurotoxic shock?" "Because we're not normal," Arlen said, slapping the microwave closed. "And sometimes we really need to forget our ex dumped us, or that we failed quantum calculus twice." Quarn stared at him for several seconds. "This merits further study." Arlen raised an eyebrow. "You're telling me your people never experimented with stuff like this?" "We have no cultural precedent for intoxicants," Quarn said. "Our youth engage in neural meditation rituals. Hallucinogenics are considered biological warfare." "Man, you are missing out," Arlen muttered. The next day, Quarn approached Arlen in the dorm's shared lab space. "I have reviewed 56 human case studies of alcohol consumption," Quarn announced. "The range of effects is alarming. Loss of motor function, impaired judgment, vomiting, liver degradation. Why does this substance remain legal?" Arlen didn't look up from the polymer printer. "Because people like it." "And Everclear?" "Even worse. That'll strip paint. I've seen grown men cry after one shot." Quarn stood silent for a moment. "Would it be permitted for me to observe a human under the influence?" Arlen sighed. "You want to watch someone drink Everclear?" "For academic purposes." "Dude, you're gonna need more than a clipboard." That weekend, Arlen invited Quarn to a small gathering in the Earthside Lounge, a low-gravity recreational chamber with artificial windows displaying a fake sunset over the Rockies. A few other students were there, mostly humans and a couple of Galaxians who were sipping fermented algae syrup through flexible straws. Quarn hovered near the refreshment table, eyes fixed on the bottle of Everclear like it was a live grenade. "So, what's the plan?" Arlen asked, pouring himself a much milder drink. "I wish to document the physiological deterioration in real time." Arlen chuckled. "I'm not downing Everclear for your thesis. I will compensate you. I have access to research credits. Quarn, I'm not drinking jet fuel for a coupon to the cafeteria. Quarn looked genuinely disappointed. But, Arlen said, setting his cup down, I know someone who might. That someone was a guy named Darren, a mechanical engineering student with a penchant for poor decisions. When approached with the idea, Darren gave a thumbs up, so confident it bordered on medical negligence. Quarn set up a small observational station in a corner, complete with biometric sensors and a hovering drone camera. Darren, oblivious to the gravity of the moment, raised the shot glass in salute. To science, he shouted, then downed it. The next 5 minutes were hilarious. Then they were concerning. Then they were deeply uncomfortable. Darren first tried to climb the anti-grav wall. Then he attempted to speak fluent Zarnisi to a very confused Glaxian. Then he vomited into a potted plant and collapsed in a heap. Is this typical? Quarn asked, furiously taking notes. Actually, that's a pretty tame reaction, Arlen said, checking Darren's pulse. He's breathing. We're good. Quarn didn't respond. It was staring at Darren like it had just witnessed a war crime. Later that night, Arlen helped carry Darren back to his dorm, while Quarn followed, still scribbling. You know, Arlen said, adjusting Darren's limp arm over his shoulder. You guys live 1,000 years, right? Yes, Quarn replied, barring accident or predation. Maybe that's why you never needed alcohol. You've got time to work through your problems. Us, we get maybe 80 years, and half of that student loans and back pain. That is a bleak perspective. Arlen grunted under Darren's weight. Yeah, that's why we drink. The next week, Quarn asked Arlen to join him in the lab. I synthesized a compound, Quarn said, holding up a vial of translucent liquid. It mimics the molecular structure of ethanol but is non-toxic to my species. I wish to experience intoxication. Arlen stared at him. You made alien Everclear? For science. Quarn, are you sure? I have adjusted the dosage. I will not perish. Okay, but don't blame me if you end up trying to date a vending machine. Quarn ingested the liquid through a port on its thorax. At first, nothing happened. Then it began to hum, then sway, then it climbed onto the ceiling and announced it had discovered a new mathematical constant. Arlen just sat down and watched. Quarn, he said, you okay up there? I am transcending. The universe is a sandwich. You're drunk. Yes, this is magnificent. Quarn fell off the ceiling and landed on the floor with a soft thud. Arlen ran over, checking its vitals. I am experiencing dizziness, Quarn said. Also, I may have misplaced several limbs. You've still got all 6. Excellent. Later, Quarn would write a paper titled Ethanol and its Sociocultural Relevance Among Homo Sapiens, a Toxic Yet Ritualized Compound. It would earn top marks. But more importantly, it would end with a quote from Arlen, sometimes humans need to be a little broken to feel whole again. And in the footnotes, a single sentence, never drink anything that can double as a cleaning agent. 3 days after Quarn's ceiling detour and mathematical enlightenment, the alien was seated cross-legged in the biobehavioral recovery chamber, staring at a slowly spinning model of the solar system. Its skin had settled into a muted teal, a color Arlen hadn't seen before. I have been recalibrating my perception of human rituals, Quarn said, not looking away from the orbiting planets. The experience was disorganizing in a beneficial way. Yeah, that's called a hangover, Arlen muttered, crouching to remove a half-eaten protein bar wedged beneath the diagnostics console. Next time, don't climb things. Gravity's still in beta here. I wish to understand the compulsion, Quarn said. Why induce such volatility in consciousness? Not just recreationally, systematically. You people construct entire industries around this. Arlen stood, brushing crumbs off his knees. We also made an entire economy out of flavored water. Doesn't mean it's smart. Quarn tilted its head. Your species often engages in behaviors that defy adaptive logic. It's deeply inefficient. Welcome to Earth, Arlen said, where the motto is, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Later that afternoon, Arlen sat in the student lounge, flipping through a digital report for his orbital materials class. Quarn hovered nearby, holding a data tablet at an odd angle, as if unsure whether to read it or interrogate it. "Do you possess any footage of early human alcohol rituals?" Quarn asked. "You mean like prohibition?" "No, earlier, pre-industrial, when fermentation was still a mystery." Arlen frowned. "You want to watch people from the Middle Ages get drunk?" Quarn nodded. "I am collecting comparative data. There's a documentary series called Drunk History. You'd love it. It's educational and everyone slurs." Quarn's eyes narrowed. "Is it accurate?" "About as accurate as a chicken with a compass, but yeah, sure." Quarn tapped at its tablet. "I have also reviewed reports on human resilience to toxins. Your livers are remarkably inefficient, yet you persist." "We don't die easy," Arlen said. "That's the whole trick. Would you permit an observational wellness scan during your next alcohol ingestion?" "I'm not a lab rat. I would provide hydration packets and monitor your vitals." Arlen leaned back. "You're really committed to this, huh?" "I wish to understand the threshold of self-inflicted stress your species tolerates before disintegration." Arlen snorted. "Fine, but no needles." That Friday, Quarn set up a monitoring station in Arlen's dorm room. It consisted of a portable vitals scanner, a breath analyzer retrofitted to accommodate human carbon profiles, and a small floating orb that emitted a soft chime every 10 minutes. "You're not going to publish this, are you?" Arlen asked, opening a bottle of low-proof whiskey. "Not without your consent. This is preliminary data." Arlen took a sip, grimaced, and wiped his mouth. "I'm doing this because I'm a good friend, and because I have nothing better to do tonight. I appreciate your sacrifice in the name of science." Over the next hour, Arlen consumed 2 shots and a glass of diluted bourbon. Quarn recorded everything: pupil dilation, facial temperature, vocal modulation, even wrist angle deviation during gesticulation. "You appear more relaxed," Quarn noted. "Yeah, that's the idea. Your breathing has slowed. Cognitive latency is up by 12%. Arlen squinted at him. "Thanks for the confidence boost." Quarn's tablet blinked. "You are still within safe thresholds. However, your serotonin markers have increased. You are experiencing mild euphoria." Arlen tapped the rim of his glass. "It's not just the drink. It's the break. The pause between whatever awful thing happened and whatever awful thing's coming next. I do not understand." "You're not supposed to. That's the thing. You're built for stability. We're built to bend." Quarn gazed at him, then slowly turned toward the scanner. "You voluntarily destabilize your neurochemistry to create emotional equilibrium. That's one way to put it." Quarn sat down beside the vitals unit. "Would you describe this state as preferable to sobriety?" "No. It's just different. Sometimes you can't fix things, but you can forget about them for a few hours." "I would like to simulate this coping mechanism without ingesting anything," Quarn said. Arlen raised an eyebrow. "You want to get drunk without drinking?" "I wish to experience the dissociation, without biochemical interference." Arlen set his glass down. "That's called meditating, or dissociating, or therapy, depending on your insurance." Quarn closed its eyes. "Guide me." Arlen blinked. "You're serious?" "I am open to procedural mimicry." He sighed and leaned back. "All right, first you need to let go of your logical framework. Stop trying to analyze." Quarren's skin flickered a pale green. "Second," Arlen said, "imagine you're floating. No gravity, no obligations, just weightless." Quarn exhaled slowly, an odd whistle escaping from its thoracic vents. "Now, picture a memory that feels warm. Not efficient, just comforting." Silence settled over the room. Then Quarn said, "There was a sun cycle on my homeworld when the air currents shifted unexpectedly. I was suspended mid-hover for 7 whole spans. I did not move. I did not fall." Arlen nodded. "That's it? That's your buzz?" This is strangely effective. Yeah, and no liver damage. They sat there for a while, the soft glow of the orb humming in the background. Outside the viewport, Earth spun slowly beneath them, blue and bright and completely unaware of its own absurdity. Eventually, Quarn turned. I have another question. Hit me. Why do humans consume intoxicants communally? The ritual appears redundant with multiple participants. It's not about the drink, Arlen said. It's about the company. If something goes wrong, someone's got your back. And if nothing goes wrong, you laugh anyway. Quarn nodded slowly. Then the substance is secondary to the bonding. Exactly. I would like to host an event. Arlen blinked. Like a party? Yes, a cross-species gathering, with non-lethal simulations of intoxication. I will engineer inert analogs for each species. You want to throw a fake drunk party? For mutual understanding. Arlen grinned. You're going to need a playlist. 3 days later, the orbital observation deck was transformed. Quarn had coordinated with 6 species to develop safe, temporary neurosensory simulations. The Glaxians had their color-reactive vapor, the Darnethi used transient electrical pulses through their carapaces, even the chlorophyte beings from Sector Y9 had bioluminescent gel packs that induced a pleasant sway. Humans, of course, brought mocktails and terrible karaoke. Arlen stood near the sound console watching Quarn circulate through the crowd, handing out tiny patches that adhered to the neck and mimicked the mild disorientation of alcohol without any physical harm. This is either brilliant or the weirdest thing I've ever seen, Arlen muttered. A Glaxian glided over, wobbling slightly. Your colleague has redefined recreational diplomacy. Quarn reappeared beside him, tilting slightly sideways. I have discovered a phenomenon. When 2 species simulate the same altered state, linguistic barriers diminish. You telling me everyone's getting along because they're fake drunk? Yes, it is unifying. Arlen raised his glass of ginger soda. To artificial chaos. Quarn held up a glowing patch. To engineered empathy. They clinked gently, glass to polymer, and watched as a Narnex tried to hug a coat rack. For the first time in the history of interstellar academia, everyone understood each other just a little better. Not because of a treaty or a declaration, but because, for one night, they all agreed to be a little less stable together. 2 weeks after the simulated inebriation party, Quarn was still adjusting to the concept of voluntary cognitive distortion as a form of ritualized bonding. It had compiled a comparative report on 73 distinct human beverages, cataloging their cultural significance, flavor profiles, and typical side effects. The report had been submitted to the Interstellar Behavioral Sciences Board, where it was promptly flagged for unusual enthusiasm. By the time Arlen found Quarn again, the alien was seated cross-legged in the hydroponics lab, adjusting the pressure on a nutrient sprayer with mechanical precision. Its skin had settled into a contemplative chartreuse. Why does your species assign so many symbolic meanings to grapes? Quarn asked, not looking up. Arlen leaned against the doorway. Because grapes can be happy, sad, sacred, fermented, dried, or just eaten. Depends on how you feel about them. Wine is fermented grapes, Quarn said. Yet its consumption is often ceremonial. Yeah, we toast with it at weddings and funerals. Same drink, different reasons. Quarn adjusted the sprayer again. Your psychology is fundamentally contradictory. Arlen shrugged. Welcome to the circus. That afternoon, they attended a mandatory health workshop hosted by the Earth-Human Integration Committee. Most attendees were aliens trying to understand how not to accidentally kill a human with hospitality. The presentation was led by Dr. Marla Ingram, a compact woman with a voice like gravel and a talent for scaring people into compliance. First thing you need to understand, she began, pacing in front of a projected diagram of the human liver, is that humans are fragile. We break easily and often, but strangely we don't stop functioning even when we probably should. Quarn leaned toward Arlen. That correlates with every observation I have made. Marla pointed at the diagram. This organ here filters toxins, slowly, poorly. It takes about 1 standard hour to process 1 unit of ethanol. If you exceed that rate, your body starts panicking. A Darnithi in the back raised a claw. By panic, do you mean systemic shutdown? No, Marla said. I mean vomiting, memory loss, and bad decisions. Quarn scribbled something on its pad. Is memory loss a defense mechanism? No, Marla said. It's a side effect. Your body doesn't plan that far ahead. After the session, Quarn requested a private meeting with Marla. Arlen tagged along, mostly because he wanted to see how long it would take before Quarn started asking about liver tissue samples. Inside the clinic, Marla opened a drawer and pulled out a stack of laminated cards. These are signs of alcohol poisoning. If you see a human doing more than 2 of these, get help. Quarn examined the list. Irregular breathing, skin pallor, unconsciousness. Fascinating. It's not fascinating, it's serious, Marla said, pulling out a breathalyzer. You want to understand humans? Learn when to stop us from being stupid. Arlen pointed at the device. That's the thing you blow into so it tells you you're an idiot. Marla handed it to Quarn. You blow into it. I possess no lungs. Then you observe. That night, Quarn invited Arlen to the Gravity Lounge again. Only a few humans were present this time, and most were seated near the observation window, watching solar flares curl off the edge of the sun. Quarn set the breathalyzer on the table. I wish to conduct a tolerance study. Arlen shook his head. I'm not drinking myself into a diagnostic chart. You need not reach toxicity. I am measuring pre-impairment markers. He sighed. 1 drink, no tests while I'm chewing. They settled into a booth with low lighting and a bottle of low-proof rum. Quarn monitored Arlen's vitals with a handheld scanner that glowed softly whenever he took a sip. After 20 minutes, Quarn tapped the breathalyzer and offered it. If you are comfortable. Arlen exhaled into the tube. The device beeped. 0.02, that's legally fine. Your facial temperature has increased by 1.1 degrees. It's warm in here. Your eye movement has slowed, pupils dilated. That's the rum. Quarn tilted its head. You are exhibiting signs of mild relaxation. No cognitive degradation yet. Glad to know I'm not spiraling, Arlen said, setting the glass down. You know, this is the first time I've ever been medically monitored during a drink. Quarren's skin shifted to a muted lilac. I find the process compelling. You endure internal chaos with such casual acceptance. Sometimes that's the only way forward. After the rum was gone, Arlen refused a second glass. Quarn didn't protest. Instead, it opened a container of synthetic nutrient paste and began analyzing its texture. Are there human rituals for recovery after intoxication? Yeah, Arlen said, stretching. Greasy food, electrolytes, shame. Shame is part of the process? If you're doing it right. Curious. 3 days later, Quarn submitted a formal request to host a health-focused interspecies workshop. The proposal was approved with mild reluctance, and only one warning about liability constraints. Arlen helped coordinate the human side, which mostly involved recruiting volunteers who had experienced hangovers without ending up in the infirmary. The event was held in the central atrium, a wide-open chamber with a transparent ceiling that showed the stars rotating gently above. Quarn had set up demonstration stations, one for liver function, one for hydration management, and one featuring a simulated headache generator calibrated to match human descriptions of hangovers. A Glaxian tried the headache simulator and immediately began apologizing to every human in the room. Arlen gave a short talk about the importance of pacing and water. He used Darren as an example, who wisely declined to attend. Quarn addressed the crowd in its usual monotone, amplified via the translator. The human relationship with alcohol is paradoxical. It is both a social adhesive and a physiological hazard. There was a murmur of approval from the Zenth delegates, who were known for their strict bioethical codes. Quarn continued, Through observation, I have determined that the human capacity for endurance is not merely biological, it is cultural. They do not merely survive discomfort, they ritualize it, they prepare for it, and, remarkably, they often repeat it knowingly. Laughter rippled through the human section. Quarn paused, then added, "This behavior is not recommended, but it is informative." After the workshop, Arlen found Quarn back in the hydroponics lab, adjusting nutrient levels again. "You're not going to start brewing anything in here, are you?" "I have completed my research. There is no need to replicate your beverages." Arlen leaned against the counter. "So what now?" "I will compile my findings into a cross-species behavioral compatibility guide. No more parties, no more simulations. The novelty has diminished." Arlen nodded. "That's probably for the best." Quarn turned toward him. "I have one remaining question. Shoot. Why do humans persist in behaviors they acknowledge as harmful?" Arlen considered this for a moment. "Because we're not always chasing health. Sometimes we're chasing connection, or distraction, or a story to tell later." Quarn absorbed this silently. "You don't have to understand it," Arlen said. "You just have to know when to pull us off the ceiling." Quarn's skin shifted to a warm amber. "I will remember that." They stood quietly as the artificial lights dimmed, signaling the end of the cycle. Outside, Earth continued its slow spin, oblivious to the strange, determined creatures learning how to be understood, one confusing habit at a time.